All right, we're now recording. So, okay, here's what we want to do, which is we want to get, okay, let me demo what's not working, which is, let's see. Oh, and did I like yeah, okay, so this, I need to yeah, comment all that out. Good. So here's what we want to do. We're going to do compile *cs and mono adventure.exe. So, and then we'll make this bigger. Okay, so we're driving around, la, 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 la. And here's the treasure. If we go over the treasure disappears, which isn't really what we want. We'd like to make it where you can walk over the treasure or other objects. And we even have structures in place to make this possible. If we look at our game object, we have, for this class, game object, don't we have an is passable, which defaults to false but could return true. So theoretically, you should be able to walk over objects that are passable, but not walk over objects that aren't passable. The reason this doesn't work is really just a poor design choice initially that I didn't even think of until afterwards. So if we look at this, we've got this game object grid. That's how each screen is represented. And so what happens is a grid square can either have like a treasure or a teleporter or a player, but not both. Right, so the player can't actually, so it's passable just says like, can you walk over the object and replace it, or is the object like something you smash into and can't walk over? And so what we want to do is make the object so that you can like walk over some objects and then not have them disappear, so you don't have to like replace them. And so I think the easiest way to do that, and let me make sure I'm on the right branch. Yeah, I'll put this on the solution branch, not on the master branch. I think the easiest way to do that is to change the screen class so that one of its instance variables is a player, which I will call player. And so now let me find the constructor. Well, okay, maybe we don't want to do that. Maybe we want to make it an attribute. Would I want to set the player? I probably want to set the player. Okay, let's do that. Public player. This is going to look weird. Player. Can I do that? Get set. So I have something of type player called player. This is weird because this is the type and that's going to be the name, and I hope that works. I don't know. We'll find out. I don't have to call it player. The class is called player. What's another word for player? Like you or something like that? I don't know. I'll just leave it as player.
MC, main character.
We'll call it the MC.
MC for main character.
MC for main character. Love it. The MC. Main character. So we got the main character, which is of type player. So now what we're going to do is legal move, get legal moves, get the game object. Oh, look at this gorgeous use of indexers where we're overloading the square bracket operator. Check row, check column. These are protected. Is in bounds. That's internal, so that's fine. What am I looking? Yeah, here we go. The toString. Okay, so you know what? I just realized something. Okay. Yep. This needs to be, I'm just going to make it private. And the reason I'm going to make it private is I just realized a screen without a player in it is pretty useless. So what I'll do is I'll change the constructor so that it also takes a player, and I'll say this dot player equal player. So now whenever we call the constructor, we have to pass it a player. Now, obviously everything that calls a constructor is going to be broken. We're going to have to fix it. I'll leave myself a to-do note here. To-do fix this. I think I need a colon after that. Yeah, there we go. And then it highlights it in yellow. Okay, cool. So now what we're going to do is here in this toString, watch this. So as we're going through all the rows and columns, we're going to have this one special player instance. So we're going to say if player dot how do I get row? Do I just do row equal R and player.column equal C? That means I found the player, right? So the player has a specific row and column. And so the player's going to remember that row and column. And so what I'm going to do is just draw the player at that point. Sorry, I'm just going to, well, okay, I won't do that yet. To draw the player, what am I going to do? Result.append player.token, whatever the player's token happens to be. Else, that means it's not the player. So what is that? Well, that could be any of this stuff. So if the player, which is a special instance variable that the screen always has access to, there's a single player, you have to have one when you create the thingamajig, the player knows where it is. When you create the screen, you have to pass it a player. So screens always have a player. If the player's row and column is equal to the current row and column that I'm going through, then draw the player because the player's there. Otherwise, don't draw the player, do the thing we did before, get the game object. If it's null, that's just an open spot. Otherwise, draw whatever the token is. So that's the plan. Now, to get this to compile, what I need to do is go back up here and I'll get this reference. Yeah, so now that was weird. Yep, I want this. Take me there. Did it take me there? Yes, good. Okay, here we go. I'm creating the screen. So what I'm going to do is move the player, the creation of the player up to here. So I'm going to create the player, and then here's the screen, and the screen needs the player. Good. I'll pass the player in. So now I've got the player. And then I think for moving, moving is okay because the player should have a reference to the screen. Oh no. I got myself into a screwy situation here because the player needs a reference to the screen, but the screen needs a reference to the player. Okay. How do we fix this? Probably, yep. Okay, here's what we're going to do to fix this. Player needs to know about the screen. That's fine. We'll just keep that the same way. Boom. But what we'll do, okay, this is super weird. This is sloppy because this is sloppy design on my part because screens know about everything, right? The screen has an array of game objects, which has all the game objects. This is 2D array, but the game objects also know about the screen, which is a little bit sloppy. The game objects like have a reference to the screen and they know what their location is and stuff like that. And that's mostly so that game objects can delete themselves. So they can say like delete, and then it'll also like, what does it mean for an object to delete itself? Well, it means tell the screen that the row and column where that object used to be is now null, and that has the effect of deleting the object. So I got this catch-22 situation where I can't create a player without a screen, and I can't create a screen without a player, but that's fine. What I'll do is I'll have a special, okay. We'll go back to the very first thing I was going to do, which is you create the player. Then I'm going to want to say screen dot main character equal player. Good. And the player, this is all fine. The player starts at a certain location, and there's the screen and whatever else. Actually, you know what? I could do it in the player constructor, which is probably better. Go to definition of the player constructor. Yeah, here we go. So normally the player constructor just sort of like does all of this stuff. What we're also going to do is take the screen it has access to and set its main character to this. Now what that means is we have to go back to screen, and this is not how we're going to do that anymore. We're going to get rid of that. And we got to go back up here. We are, after all, going to make this. Do we want to make it public? We probably don't want to make it public. Let's make it internal player, main character and we're going to make it get and set. So internal meaning if you're like in one of these files up here, you can get and set the player, but if you're outside of it, you can't. I don't know if that'll matter. Let's see if this even compiles. CSC star CS. The name player, oh yeah, because it's not called player. I called it MC. Where is that? That's at screen line 119. Where are you? 119. Right, of course, because that's now called MC for main character. And we can get the, right, okay, so let's see if that works. Holy crap, it does. Okay, I'm not used to things working. All right. Okay, wait. So that deleted the treasure, but I don't want to delete the treasure anymore. Now, okay. This part is swell for drawing the player. The problem is moving the player is actually updating the screen, which is not what we want. Okay, so what we're going to do now is go into something else, not that. Nope. Okay, does player extends a moving game object? That's actually what I want, is go to the definition of that. Move, delta row, delta column. This actually, yeah, if game object is not null and it's not, yeah, okay, well, that's stupid. I don't know why I did it that way. Yeah, this actually changes the screen, which isn't what we want. A movable object, yeah, ha, okay. Okay, So there's an interesting question here. Do we want mobs to be able to move over passable objects or just players? Because if a mob can move over a passable object, it'll still make it disappear. So what we could do is actually have a whole list of things. So the screen could actually own a player and a list of mobs, and it could move them all the same way. The key thing that we're dealing with here is right now moving, it's assumed when you move, you're going to, compute the new row and column and then, set the original row column to null and set the new row column to this. This is the line that's actually overwriting your teleporter when you walk over it. And so by making player not update the game objects, we're getting rid of that possibility, that negative side effect that we don't want. So the challenge here, okay, here's the way to hack it, which is we already, so if this was legit, we got this row column. Yeah, this is what changes the row and column to the new locations. So what we can say is if, this is super sloppy, if this is player, in other words, if we're the player, just return, or return, empty string or something like that. So just don't make, in other words, don't adjust it. So now mobs move the way they used to move, meaning if a mob moves over a treasure, it eats the treasure because it replaces it, but a player shouldn't. At least that's my theory. So I'm going to test this. You're so kind to listen to me ramble about this, Joseph. Thank you so much. Okay, yeah, look, we can move over ourselves. And can we move over the treasure? We can. Boom. Okay, now the problem, of course, is we've got, there's a player object stuck. You can't see where I'm pointing. I'll wave the cursor. There's a player object stuck there. That's a bug. We're going to fix that. So the problem here is, it's the constructor for player. So yep, when we, now this is fun. Okay, so here's what's happening. When we create the player, we're calling this constructor, but we're calling, let's look at the, game object constructor. Because it's given a screen, look what happens. So anytime we create a game object, since we give it a screen, it sticks itself in the game object, which isn't really what we want. So what I'm going to do to hack this so that it doesn't do that, which is stupid again, maybe this is all bad and I shouldn't be showing anyone how to do this, but what I'm going to do for the player constructor is, okay. Because basically we don't want to call this base constructor for a player because we don't want to take the screen and put something into it. So here's how I'm going to solve that. I just won't call it, right? I'm going to move this window over here because that's better. Okay, good. I had like the zoom window. I'm going to move the zoom window so I can actually see what the hell I'm doing. I'm just not going to call this. And I'll just go ahead and say like, okay, screen equals screen. That's fine. Row equal row. That's fine. Column equal column. That's fine. Name equal name. And I'll tell the screen that the main character is this, which is the current thing I just created. And I just won't do this at all. I won't call the base constructor. I don't have to call, I don't think I have to call the base constructor. I hope I don't have to call the, well, we'll find out. What is that saying? There is no argument given that corresponds to the required formal parameter row of blah, 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 at line blah, 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 blah. Line 5. Int row. What? I don't know. Okay. There is no argument given that corresponds to the required formal parameter row of moving game object. Maybe I have to call a base constructor. Well, that's an interesting question. Let's ask the internet. Oh, wait. Hopefully. Wait, can you see that? Did you see my email pop up? Probably not, because I'm sharing the other thing. Okay. Let's do this. Okay. C# subclass. Do I have to call a base class constructor? I might not have to, but I probably have to. It's usually a good practice. You can also call to another constructor. How and when to use the base? Well, what is this telling me? Oh, I should change the share so you can see this. New share. So you can enjoy the joys of all of this as well. Like, why would you want to miss out on this? Okay, base class. Call the base class constructor, right? Base class, subclass to base class. Yeah, but do you have to do that? Ah, see, it's not just a good practice, it's enforced by the compiler. Okay, so this is starting to show some of the weaknesses of the way I designed this, but we'll switch back here. So now what this means is I have to call a base class constructor. So I'm just going to start okay. So I have to call this constructor, which means I'm going to stick the player into the screen. So what I'm going to do to fix that is just undo it. Screen of row column equal null. So this is to get the player out of the screen. The player is an instance variable owned by screen, not a game object in the screen. Yeah, that's what we're doing. All right, now let's see if this compiles. Okay, good. Let's run this. I gotta move this window again just for the 10. What is going on? There we go. Look, it works. We did it. Oh, because the player's not really there, we have to change the rules for how mobs can kill the player. Because the mob is expecting to find the player in the game object array, but it doesn't. But the player's not there anymore. So we do need to fix the mob player killing rules. But that's okay, right? That's just more details. That's just more details. Like we've got this going on. It's all under control. It's all under control. Okay, so what I'm gonna well, how would we do that? I don't know. Well, okay, let me stop and you start asking questions, and then I'll mute myself so that you don't hear me eating.
Well, I mean, a lot of that makes sense. I'll probably end up rewatching the video after you post it so I can follow through, because I'm not able to work through it that fast. I still struggle to find where stuff is in this thing, but yeah. So for to look over at the mob. Um, the mob is just a constructor, and
Mhm.
so how the mob deals with the enemy is in adventure, I believe.
Yeah.
Then I have my whopping almost 200 lines just dedicated to building the map.
Yep. Your map looked great, by the way. I mean,
Yeah,
your map was awesome.
it's actually based off of a map from a game called Fire Emblem Three Houses. It's an actual map that has all the door and teleporter placements are, and the wall placements are exactly the same as in that map on Fire Emblem Three Houses.
Awesome. That's super cool.
But yeah, let's
Um,
see. That deals with game over. I mean, I also wanted to see if maybe I could attack mobs, but at this point, I probably have more than enough because what I am extended wall to make horizontal and vertical walls. I made doors and I made teleporters, and I'm about to
mhm.
make them passable.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty good. You got a lot of good stuff going on. And you've got a map that's actually a real map.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is
Yeah, here it
terrible.
is.
Like having the mobs in adventure, like in the main method. These really should, like, Screen should own its own mobs. That's clearly a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then this
Yeah, and
is,
so
yeah, here's the problem
yeah,
is it's expecting, this is the line right here.
yeah,
To do, this line expects to find the player, um, in the screen, but now the player is an instance variable owned by Screen, um, rather than in than a game object in the screen. So this would need to change to let the mob kill the player. You know what? Why don't I just change it? Because it would not be that difficult. This if just changes. So instead of doing that, what we would do is, how do we get the, oh, we can get the player from the screen. Okay, we would do player. Oh, we already have a player location. Oh no, we literally have the player. Um, what we would do is we would say if, because we have the, like, don't we have access to the player in here somewhere? Like, didn't we literally create the player up here, and so the variable's live down there? Yeah,
yeah.
player. We have the player. Okay, good. Well, we'll just, well, yeah, okay, this is not, this is easier than I realized. Okay, watch this. We'll just say if the player's row equal mob.row plus delta row, and player.column equal mob.column plus delta column, then all the same stuff. I can probably get rid of this and just put a to-do note in here to say, like, to-do, damn it, Spacco, move the mobs into the screen class like a normal person and not have them in main, what is it, main, like a, weirdo or whatever. I don't know. That's really very loaded. I'll say like a sophisticated, because I don't want to like start deciding what is and isn't normal. That's not my place to judge. Like a sophisticated developer and not like a noob. How about that? No,
Like a
not like a
weirdo
weird
noob.
noob. That's like a different thing. Like a noob. Good. Because do people still say noob? Maybe people don't say noob anymore. I don't know.
Yeah,
Okay, let's see if that
we
actually
still say
worked.
noob.
They still say noob? Oh, thank God. Okay. And what do we got? Boom, 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 boom. Now let's go try to find this mob and commit mob suicide. Come on, get me. Oh, are you effing kidding me? You are the dumbest monster I have ever seen. This is
Chase it.
insane. Oh, gosh. Get me. Yes. We did it. Boom.
Except
Okay.
it didn't. Except the player's icon was still there. it didn't turn to the asterisk.
Details. Oh yeah, because you know why? Because it draws the player over the top.
So then couldn't you just say player.token equal asterisk?
You could change the player's token, or you could add a notion of death to the player. So if the player's dead, don't draw the player. Or we could have a special thing where, like, when the player's dead, draw your token like as a something. What would a dead player look like? I don't know. This is great. Okay. So get diff n. No, get diff. Okay, get diff -- name - only. Okay. Get diff. Oh, there was one other change I wanted to show since I'm videoing this, which is was it in player? No, it was in screen. We're screen. Yeah, good. Which is up here. So this is Justin was adding random spawning mobs, so he needed like coordinates. So I went and added this method. I haven't tested this. I mean, obviously it compiles because I've been compiling it over and over again. But the idea here is we want a method where you could get all the empty squares. And so this is in screen where, here's your instance variable. What it's going to do is just go through every row and column. And if that square is null, it's going to add a new tuple. What's a tuple? Well, a tuple is just a generic type where you can sort of say what the two types are. And you can just create instances of it that it just exists just to store two things. So if you want to return 2 ints from a method instead of 1, you could return tuple with 2 ints. So this returns a list of tuples where each tuple is the row column of every open square. If you need things to randomly spawn in or find a random open spot in the board for like treasures to appear or something. So that I just wanted to throw that out there. This seems sort of cool. So I'm gonna I guess get diff -- name - only, but that should be get diff n. So what this means is it's a new laptop and I don't have all my Git aliases set up. I forget, I'll have to set that. Anyway, git add, so I want to add player. Let's do this, get diff player. Okay, get diff player. So that's not that many changes. Right, that just added that just added a little bit of code here. Okay. Get diff adventure CS. This had some changes, but not too many. Screen. This had more changes, but again, not too many. And finally, let me see what other things were changed. And also, GameObject. Get diff GameObject. Right, not much there. Okay, good. So let's do this. Git add adventure.cs, GameObject.cs, player and screen. Git commit made passable objects actually passable. Let me make sure I'm on the right branch. I am. I want to put this on the solution branch. Git push solution. Great. Good. Ha! Isn't that great? Oh, well, whatever. It's fine. It's fine as a branch. Okay, good. I can stop the share probably. I don't know. Anyway, that's how you make passable objects. I will post the video shortly as soon as I can get it to process. Yeah. I guess I can stop recording too, unless there's other passable object related things I should put on the video.
I mean, not that I can think of. I mean, the way it is right now, I believe mobs still pass over and delete treasures, but I'm probably just like not going to put them anywhere where treasures are. I'll probably just put them in like open spaces.
Mm-hmm. All right, cool. I'll start processing the video. I mean, you could do the same thing with mobs you're doing with players to make them move over stuff. That would totally work, but it would be almost exactly the same logic. In fact, that would argue that movable objects really have, like, movable objects should never be game objects. They should just move around, but not. Oh, that's interesting. So now players shouldn't be a game object. There should be game objects and then movable objects, which are allowed to move around, which can override. Oh yeah. Yeah. The whole structure just came to me, and it's not the structure that I used. Thank God we have this on video for posterity. Doesn't that make sense though? Because mobs and players should be like instance variables that screen owns, but they shouldn't be in the game object grid. The game object grid should just be for walls and teleporters and doors. And so you sort of like, you can think of it as like you draw the game objects, then you layer the mobs and the players on top of it. Now the players and the mobs need to know about the screen and the grid of game objects because they need to know where they're allowed to move and not, but they could just keep asking the screen like, hey, am I allowed to move here? Am I allowed to move there? That would be interesting. That would be a better structure. Yep, that would have made a lot more sense. Yep, pretend I did it that way the whole time.
And I suppose one way to deal with mobs passing over objects is I suppose that what have you if you can make a game object in the current sense. If game object is mob, then you can override it and make objects not passable.
That's true. That's actually an interesting feature that like you want to get the treasure before, like the mobs could be trying to get you or the treasure, because the mobs could be getting the mobs getting the treasure is kind of like, yeah, that's kind of screwing you over as the player. So like the mobs don't just have to kill you. They might just steal your stuff.
Yeah, and like one more thing I was thinking about doing, but I don't feel like I'm causing myself too much grief, is I'm making an exit icon where when you interact with it, it would check your inventory, and if you don't have all the treasure, then you can't leave.
That would be
and
cool.
If you do have all the treasure, then it quits.
That would be super cool. That'd be great.
But like I said, I don't know if I'm going to do all that. Depends on how much time I have.
Yeah. And you got how like much calculus and physics and various other things to do.
And how much sanity I want to surrender.
That's a fixed commodity as well. Like your map, you should probably put sanity on the map. Okay, I should stop recording then and